Before we get any further, this video contains spoilers for The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 9. If you haven't seen it yet, we highly recommend you head on over to Disney Plus and watch it before continuing with the video. If you're all caught up or just don't care, let's dive right in. There's a lot of elements that go into making a good show. A solid plot is probably the first thing that comes to mind, followed by well-written characters. With what The Bad Batch has given us so far, we'd definitely say it's a good show, and the latest episode is further proof of that. As we mentioned, well-written characters are a must if you want your show to be engaging, but a fundamental part of a well-written character is their emotional development to show that they're learning and evolving from their experiences. One of life's hardest pills to swallow is change, and this week's episode does an excellent job of exploring it. With everything that's happened to them lately, Clone Force 99 are at a crossroads, and this episode brings some hard epiphanies to light. In this video, we'll be talking about change and what we think it means for their future. The episode kicks off with Clone Force 99, now minus Echo, traveling to an unnamed world to mine Ipsium out of a mine Sid purchased. From the get-go, the team looks dispirited. Tempers are high, and instead of the usual cheerful attitude, everyone seems gloomy and surly. Throughout the episode, Tech and Wrecker are constantly making digs at one another. Even Omega, usually the most happy-go-lucky team member, seems down in the dumps. And we can't blame her for it. At such a young age, Omega has already suffered a great deal of loss. In the first season, she lost her home when she and the rest of the Bad Batch had to flee Kamino. She lost the Kaminoans, who had been her family until then. She lost her sense of belonging, and she had to watch as all those things crashed and burned into the murky waters of the ocean world with a finality no child should have to experience. Clone Force 99 is all she has left, and now, not only is Echo gone, but they also lost their home, the Marauder, possibly forever. To a child that needs a sense of security and stability, these sorts of changes would have been a lot to take in. But for a child like Omega, who has already suffered a great deal of loss, it can feel like too much. In situations like these, it's up to the adults to help the child understand and navigate their feelings. But when the adults in your life are emotionally stunted 10-year-old super soldiers, that poses more of a challenge. We see that struggle in the way Tech tries to approach the situation by explaining the pure logic of it all. Echo is only on another mission, and the Marauder is just a ship. Those are facts, but Omega, like all of us, doesn't struggle with the truth, but with her feelings about the truth. Despite the setback, they do manage to connect emotionally. Tech takes the time to explain that, yes, change is hard, but change is also inevitable, and we have to do our best to roll with life's punches and adapt as things go. Things will never stay exactly as they are now, and even if that's frightening, we all need to keep our heads held high and move forward. The message is for Omega, but the rest of the squad seem to need to hear it just as much as she does. If this episode made one thing clear, it's that things can't stay the way they are for much longer. We've spoken before about how Season 2 of The Bad Batch is setting us and the titular protagonists up for a major change in outlook. For a few weeks now, we've been seeing the signs of Clone Force 99 slowly realizing that they can't just sit on the sidelines forever. The galaxy is in the middle of a new war they want to escape, but the peaceful life they want to eke out for themselves is looking more and more impossible as they come face to face with the Empire's atrocities. But the truth is, change is difficult to accept at the best of times, but making a change for the sake of it is even harder. Just like Hansa and the others, we all see hardship around us. Every day, people the world over suffer from war, famine, and natural disasters, but most of us don't actively change our lifestyle to do anything about that. In a sense, it's like the bystander effect. We feel as if someone should do something, but we're too secure in our comfort zone to leave our life and go out in the world to try and make a meaningful difference. It's no surprise that the stories you usually hear of people having a sudden come-to-Jesus moment and turning their lives around happen after some big event that made them realize their comfort zone was lost forever. We think this episode is that moment for Clone Force 99. Until now, they had been trying to hold on to their comfort zone as securely as they could. Their goal was to work for Sid, earn credits, and keep themselves afloat enough to avoid the pan-galactic conflict. As long as they had that lifestyle to fall back on, they didn't feel highly pressured to get more involved in the war around them. They had other options, and as any sentient being, they wanted that security. Well, it turns out that sense of security was nothing more than an illusion. Even though they were bred to be different to regular clones, Clone Force 99 still retained many of the same personality traits Regs had. In particular, we're talking about their sense of camaraderie. The Bad Batch care about one another and their Reg clone brothers as much as the Regs care about each other, and they've demonstrated that time and time again this season by using stun blasters. That sense of camaraderie is what allowed the clones to take on such dangerous missions during and after the Clone Wars. They knew their squad mates had their back. Sid, as it turns out, does not. When trapped on the unnamed world, marooned after their ship was stolen, low on water and rations, they desperately place a long-distance communication to Sid requesting her help. And she says no. To Sid, their plight is not her problem, and she's perfectly happy abandoning them. When Tech brings up the multiple favors she owes them, she begrudgingly agrees to help in a few days. Even when they tell her they don't have enough rations for a few days, she just hangs up. This might feel like a betrayal, but fundamentally, we don't think it is. It's a difference in mentality. The clones always have, and always will have, each other's backs. But Sid, a Trandoshan, looks out for herself and expects everyone else to do the same. Yes, she's abandoning them, but the clones should have expected it. During their past dealings, Sid made no secret of her attitude. She never helped more than begrudgingly or because she'd also benefit. Even more so, the clones were specifically warned about her in episode 4. Malegi, the not quite evil antagonist of the episode, straight up warned them about Sid's double-crossing tendencies.
You three. You could have walked away. That loyalty is admirable. But with Sid, it doesn't always go both ways. Watch your backs.
In this episode, it finally seems he was proven right. Sid is not loyal to them, and she won't hesitate to leave them for dead so she can eventually send someone to collect the Ipsium from their bodies. The Bad Batch can't rely on her, and thus, they have to come to the difficult realization that their comfort zone isn't that comfortable anymore. Change is hard, but sometimes it's also necessary, and we think that after this episode and Sid's behavior, Clone Force 99 won't be rushing to work with her in the future. She's unreliable, and that's not the sort of problem they need right now. So far, Season 2 has done an excellent job at showing us and the Bad Batch what the galaxy is coming to outside of their bubble, but they'd always had that bubble to go back to until now. Now, that bubble is starting to pop. In that sense, this episode was necessary in showing them that they couldn't just remain complacent. Even what they consider the safer of the two options isn't safe, and certainly not sustainable. And if they can't continue as they had been, perhaps it's time to bite the bullet and do what they'd been trying to avoid until now. Fight. For a low-stakes episode, we really did enjoy this one. Change is hard, and it's very important for the characters and us viewers to sometimes take a moment to let it sink in so we can come to terms with it. But what do you think? Do you think Sid burned that bridge with them after this episode? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.